Hello everyone. Today I am less tired. I would like to tell you a small story about the strange things that my friends and I witnessed in Cambodia in the late 80s and early 90s. First of all, let me say this. What my brothers and I saw, we did not understand what phenomenon, what, so I do not dare to confirm and do not try to convince everyone to believe anything. If you do not believe, please skip over it. It was near the end of the dry season. We wandered from Otidar Mean Che through Anlong Viang, Siem Reap. I don't remember the specific names of the places here, so there may be some mistakes in the characters. I hope everyone understands. We walked along the Dang Rak Range, sometimes along the mountainside, sometimes along the foot of the mountain, depending on the terrain. It was the peak of the dry season, so this place was like a fire pan. Hot and lacking water to the point that the trees were drooping and withered. The sun was blazing. We went after a forest fire. Quite a few animals couldn't run fast enough, so they were burned to death by the fire. Among them were a wild boar and a small muntjac. Each of these animals was only about 10 kilos. So we tried to carry them, because if they were bigger or more, we wouldn't have enough strength to crawl under the sun anymore. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, walking under a fairly flat, shallow valley, through binoculars from afar I discovered a small poom. About 5 or 7 roofed houses on stilts right at the foot of the rocky mountain on the Anlong Viang side. I found a high point and observed this poom carefully with binoculars. It seemed to be a deserted poom. There were many pooms and socks like this here because Pol Pot soldiers had herded all the people into huge labor concentration communes. And the pooms and socks were abandoned. We decided to go up there to find shelter. Carefully walking step by step, observing whether there were any mines or traps. Because this place, at the end of the Dangrek range near the border with Laos. The remaining troops retreated to set up their base for defense because this place borders Thailand and Laos, with strategic terrain suitable for defense. So they set up mines and traps terribly densely. Entering the village, I was startled because there were not a few roofs like my brothers and I saw at first. But there were dozens of sturdy corrugated iron-roofed stilt houses in an arc shape, leaning against the rocky mountain range and facing the valley in front. Many of which had been burned and collapsed by the Royal Army's firepower long before when they were chasing the remaining troops. Observing every trace carefully, I guessed that this base had been abandoned for a long time. Inside the base was a fairly wide, gently sloping valley with many orange and lemon trees. The front yard was quite large, with a row of large, dilapidated, and crooked buffalo and cow barns, and a row of about 20 to 30 palm trees running along the edge of a dry, sandy stream. If there had not been a war, this place would have been very beautiful and peaceful. In the yard, under the floors of the houses here and there were scattered human skeletons exposed under the grass, or lying scattered or bunched together, with skulls, some yellow, some white, with 2 black eye sockets staring at us. These were the bones of the dead soldiers. When they finished attacking the base and withdrew, the Royal Army only burned and destroyed the infrastructure, leaving the corpses for wild animals, rats, crows, to deal with. We spread out to check the houses and look for one that was still temporarily suitable for a few days of shelter. Right at the first house I had just climbed the stairs to, I was startled to discover a black hammock still swinging inside. I waved at my younger brother G, who was behind me. He came close to the window and put his gun in to support me. I pulled out my dagger and approached the hammock very gently. 2 steps away I had to tilt my head back and stop, put the knife in its sheath and waved at G to come in. On the hammock was a white skeleton. The strong, musty smell still lingered around. The 2 brothers looked around for a while, then sat down to observe every position and terrain. When finished I told G, "Cut the rope. Take him down there. This place might be a good place to guard at night because of the wide observation range." The 2 brothers grabbed both ends of the hammock and carried this great-grandfather down. I was thinking of throwing it somewhere more private to make it less creepy. But oh my god. Right under the floor were 2 more grandfathers lying on top of each other like a cross. Forget it, there were so many. Why clean it up? I told G. The 2 brothers lowered the hammock, right next to where the two grandfathers were lying, and let them have guns on one side and knees on the other. But when I lowered the hammock, I discovered that lying on the hammock was a female, not a man, because her chin-length hair and bangs were still stuck to her skull. The soldiers still called her head Jiang Tan. Roof Hai Nhi. Jiang Tan I know, but Hai Nhi I don't know. Feeling sorry, the two brothers carried her and placed her neatly on one side. I pulled the black hammock to cover her and muttered that whoever is where should find a way to return to their hometown. The two brothers crawled out of the floor. The other guys, after turning around, turned back. All crawled under the house next door to discuss a bit. T suddenly jumped up and looked at the two skeletons and spat and grumbled. "Oh. Motherfucker. There's more." I said yes. "There are two guys down here. On the floor above there is this hammock and another female life. U and G cut it down. I was going to guard this house tonight. But when I went downstairs, I saw a whole bunch more. Nearly 30 guys. Bro, I haven't counted them carefully. Scattered everywhere. Under the floor. On the floor. The corner of the bushes is scary. Maybe the guys pulled them out to count the bodies or something. Saw a bunch of bones like a pile of firewood. Skulls like fallen coconuts." I asked the whole gang, "Have you found a place to stay temporarily?" "No bro. If there's a house that's closed and safe, what else can you stay in with all the bones inside?" T mumbled. H told me, "How about going into a cave to stay temporarily bro?" I asked, "Is there a cave?" He said, "There is. Bro. Behind there." The guys crawled out. It turned out that behind the row of houses was a rocky cliff. There was a pretty big cave entrance, about 4 meters high. We crawled in. The cave floor was flat. Probably this place was used by the pots to stay before, so the inside seemed a bit clean. We split up. One went to remove the planks to make a bed. The other went to get firewood to prepare the fire. In this place, if there is no water in the dry season, it is easy to die of thirst. The whole vast area is dry and barren, covered with dust. The way to get water in this country in the dry season is probably only available here. The soldiers have to find streams or rivers, shallow streams with exposed sand and dust, and dig. 2 guys stand guard around. 2 or 3 guys work hard digging like rats into the sand layer. If they are lucky, there will be water after about a meter. If they are unlucky, they will dig like a bomb crater to get water. A thick yellow liquid with sand is scooped up, stretched with plastic into a small sand hole to form a tank. Leave it for a while for the sand to settle, and then there will be water to use. If there are no rivers or streams, then find bamboo trees or reeds with their tops cut off by worms. And if you are lucky, you can find some water inside, or soft vines that look like cassava. Cut them down and suck them temporarily. If there are none, the only way is to pee and drink. One guy pees for the other guy to collect in a bowl and drink. Drink each other's pee, but drinking your own pee will be bitter and difficult to drink. Just hold your breath and imagine yourself drinking beer or sugarcane juice, and it will all go down. Better than having a sore throat and dying of thirst. After getting enough water, we butchered a wild boar and a small deer we picked up on the way. Then brought them back to the cave to cook and have dinner together. The guys at home had finished cleaning the cave's interior. They even carried old tables and chairs from the houses back to set up to sit on. Like a proper sidewalk cafe. I picked up the curved axe that the Cam people often use. Sharp enough to shave even leg hair. I crept out to the tram bush in the afternoon where there were piles of human bones below. Wandering around to look, roughly there were about 20 skulls rolling around everywhere. A fishy, strong, musty smell. Hard to describe. Pungent, emanating from the sweltering heat. Next to the ruined buffalo and cow barn was a pile of disassembled or bent guns, rusty. I tried to find 1 or 2 strands of Polygonum multiflorum to cut down to drink instead of tea after dinner. I heard people say it is a precious medicinal plant, a tonic or something. I don't care what it does, where it does it, or if it just works. I just cut it up and boil it to get water to drink instead of tea. Because it is bitter, a bit astringent, and has a sweet aftertaste like tea. Here, there are many and big Polygonum multiflorum plants. While groping around, I suddenly saw under a sheet of corrugated iron that had fallen sideways right next to a foot of the stairs leading to a house. 2 small skulls and pieces of black, rotten clothes. I pulled the sheet out. 2 skeletons of 2 children, only about 10 years old. The older one hugging the younger one, lying curled up. Next to it was a small, black, distorted pot. I don't know if they died from being shot or from hunger or thirst. In the army of Pol Pot, there were many children like this. They were skinny, skin and bones. Their eyes were dull from hunger and thirst. Bewildered, I was once shot by a child like this, but he didn't have enough strength to pull the trigger. If he was a young man, I would have drilled a few holes in his skull before he could shoot me, but he was just a child. It wore a ragged, stinking, and extremely dirty adult black outfit. I gave it water. It could no longer speak, only whimpering like a puppy. Knowing it was dying, its pupils dilated, because of illness and exhaustion. I quickly searched my bag for my rice ball, broke it into small pieces for it to eat, and mixed in some of the precious palm sugar I had saved. Oh my child, I can't save you. Even if you die, you must have a full meal one last time. Hang in there. It looked at me, its eyes wild, unfamiliar, bewildered, a little grateful. When 2 streams of tears flowed out and rolled back, it no longer had the strength to struggle to die, only twitched slightly. In my life, I have seen so many terrible scenes. Blood flowing, heads falling, bones and flesh being crushed. Tears only flowed in, but before images like this. My tears flowed like a flood. Because of helplessness, because of sorrow. Many painful images haunted me until I died. I called T over. The 2 of us picked up a rotten blanket from the house above to cover them temporarily. The next day we dug the ground to build a grave for him. After eating and drinking, we sat down to roll cigarettes, smoke, and drink Polygonum multiflorum tea. The night passed in a stifling heat. The moon was bright and clear, strangely quiet. The next day, we slept comfortably to regain our strength. Until 10 a.m. I woke up. Everyone had gotten up and gone somewhere. Only the village elder was sitting there, fiddling with a Russian handheld flashlight. After washing my face and eating, I sat down to smoke and told him, "Leave it there. I'll fix it later. You can easily turn a healthy pig into a dead pig." It muttered, "Damn, it's so scary. Bro, last night I was on guard at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. Something kept lurking from the base of the palm tree, jumping into the yard, then jumping out again. I asked, is it big? Or is it a bear? It smiled and looked at me. No, I know a bear. This one is better. I'll fix the flashlight so it won't make a loud noise and I'll call you tonight to show you." I didn't pay much attention to that. At noon, the guys who were searching around returned to the cave, arguing and whispering about something as they walked. T pressed my hand and went out. I followed him. Past 3 or 4 houses he whispered, "Let me see this." From the cave, after about 5 or 6 houses, there was a small foundation behind a house. There was a rather large mound of earth. T pushed the tree aside to show me. A tombstone, I think. I looked closely and saw that there were indeed some lines of words carved with a dagger. I asked him, "What did they bury here?" Because the Cambodian people do not bury their dead. Usually when they die they are cremated and the ashes are taken to the temple. Or did they bury gold? I smiled and winked at T. He said, "I'll call them to dig?" I said yes, but watch carefully or they'll set a mine and explode. The whole group happily pulled out with knives and shovels in hand. The only Cambodian boy in the group shrank his neck and stuck out his tongue. Luke thumb. Then he walked away, not daring to join in the digging. I thought it was deep, but it turned out to be a rock foundation, so it was just a pile of dirt. While digging, G suddenly threw the shovel and grinned, pointing to T. "Here's your gold." We gathered to look. 2 or 3 skulls were sticking out from under the dull black cloth. Looking at my hair, I knew it was a woman's. Oh, a grave? Let's fill it up. They were busy filling it up again. We also built a grave for the 2 children. We were used to places like this so we no longer felt scared or shivering, but this place was not too much of a negative energy. But too much. That night, when my brothers and I finished eating, A few of us went down to get some water to bathe. 2 of us hung hammocks under the floor in front to cool off. And I sat by the crippled table in the cave, occasionally turning on the flashlight to take notes. When the light just flashed on the notebook, I was about to write when I was startled. Right in front of me, that is, the chair opposite, there was a dark figure sitting and staring at me, thinking someone had come in. I turned off the light and said, "Oh," and was about to ask who it was, but there was nothing in front of me. I shivered slightly, pretended to pull the sock covering the light on the lampshade out and looked closer at the notebook to write, but I didn't write, but glanced discreetly in front of me. There was a blurry figure, not sure if it was a man or a woman, hovering right in front of me, pretending not to know. I pretended to take the pack of tobacco, took a piece of paper to roll a cigarette. The light was off. In the cave, right in front of me, there were dim lights like columns of smoke swaying very strongly, writhing. At night, after cutting the guard, we all lay down and whispered to each other. I put my hand on my forehead and pretended to sleep. The guys lay with their heads turned into the cave facing the cave entrance. I lay on my back with my head on the backpack really high. Pulled my baseball cap down close to my eyes, pretending to sleep and paying attention. At that time, it was only about 11 o'clock, it was dark inside the cave. Outside the moon was bright. The light shone in a little. About a meter away from me was the crippled table where we often sat. There were dim, dark shadows moving around the table, and under the table, there was a musty smell that suddenly rose. It was so hot but I clearly felt a bit cold. A strange cold that was not from the weather, or from the cold air of the Rocky Mountains, but from something. Like the air from the air conditioner blowing back and forth continuously. While I was trying to strain my eyes to see, a flash of light and a chuckle made me jump. The village elder sat up. "Did you see? I saw it yesterday. Their mother passed by us kkkkkk." The shadows suddenly disappeared with the light. I sat up in confusion. Asked T, "Have you gone deep into the cave?" He said, "Me and CUG only blocked the board at the low place but have not gone deep inside." I put on my shoes and took out my lamp. The guys all sat up, invited each other to go inside to see what was there. I cut 3 of them to lie down. 1 went to guard with T, the other 4 of us went in. My younger brother Cam was scared and did not dare to go in. It turned out that the cave was very deep, not as shallow as we thought. The floor was quite flat with stone. From where we lay to the end of the flat floor was almost 20 meters. The cave floor was wet. Water dripped. Many small rocks fell down, along with countless pieces of cast iron grenades. It seemed like the soldiers did not want to go in, so they stood outside and threw grenades at them. Deep inside, the light was very weak. The village elder T suddenly exclaimed, "Oh, the jar is gold, antiques. Guys." I shined the light in. There were 4 big jars. 3 of them were broken. Only the bottom was left. The innermost one was only half broken. Half was left. Inside there was only water. Nothing else. A lot of black and dark blue cloth rolls. Machine gun ammunition boxes inside contained new-looking Western medicine. Strangely, there were also some bicycle wheels. It seemed like this was a warehouse like the many warehouses we often saw of the savages in the forest. Suddenly T howled. I shined the light following his light. There were a lot of human bones scattered inside. There was a skeleton sitting down. The skull had fallen off, looking like a headless person. There were about 5.6 skulls in total, all female pots, I think. An extremely horrible smell rose up. We went back to the sleeping area to discuss. What now? Never mind. Let's sleep tomorrow, because the other houses are dangerous now. The whole group was lying there whispering. It turned out that last night they had taken turns on guard duty. The 3 of us had seen many black shadows jumping, crawling, around the yard. Occasional moaning sounds somewhere. Also shadows of children running quickly in the yard. And the sound of something falling. I didn't get to see those things. Only vaguely saw something in the cave today. ... That night we slept for another night. The next day we moved to find another place to stay. That was one of the many times I encountered strange things in this strange land. Thank you for reading this far. I have been busy and had a fever these past few days, so I couldn't write anything. Please don't be sad.